All right, here we go. What's up, everyone? This is Isaac with Hunger Smash Fitness, and today I have my block's strongest man with us, and we are here to talk about World's Strongest Man, finals, predictions, what we think is going to happen, and we would love to hear what everyone else also thinks is going to happen.
You're being way too easy on Brian Shaw.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, wait,
yeah, there you go.
Sorry, it's do unto others as you would have them do unto you, not as they've done unto you. My bad.
Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, I was thinking maybe first off, if you want to share your predictions and we can go through those a little bit. And then I wanted to go through some of the previous contests and just look and see what's happened in the past.
Yes, there you go. You should have it.
Okay, there we go. Sweet.
So, shall I talk through them again like I did earlier, or would you like to pick?
Sure. Yeah, if you wanna start it off.
Yeah. So honestly, going through the qualifiers, Brian seemed pretty unbeatable. I thought that it was a done deal that he was going to win this, and then just kind of doing the math here, Tom Stoltman really measures up very well in a lot of these areas, in my opinion. And I'm actually being told by my audiences that I'm giving Brian Shaw too much credit on the Giants medley, which was the joke I just told you.
Yeah.
So basically, I went by how they performed in the qualifiers, and I know that medley was different than this medley, but one of the implements was a frame, and they're dressing up the frame this time around. I hear they're using those giant barrels that they had in the loading portion and putting them on the frame this time. I don't know how that works out, because how do you make the rest of the frame lighter? So we'll see. But
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Same handles though. So I mean, if you had trouble with those handles, you're going to have trouble with these handles, and if you didn't, you won't now. So I kind of went by that, right? Tom Stoltman is fast with yoke and fast with loading, so I'm giving him 10 points there, and Brian 9. Nobody seemed to argue with the 10 on Tom, so I think we're good there. Then Max is really explosive, did well with the medley in the qualifiers. I gave him 8 points there, 7 to Luke Stoltman, and then I got Bobby coming in with 6 points. Again, taking into consideration what they did in the qualifier. So from there, it goes from there: 5 to JF, 4 to Constantine, 3 to Athor Melstead, 2 to Adam Bishop, and then 1 to Trey Mitchell, who is unfortunately notoriously lacking in his grip. And that showed in the qualifiers. So,
yeah.
So what do you think about that medley? Tell me what you think about any of those guys.
I think it's going to be fun. I mean, because I was looking up some of the previous competitions. Like last year's, it was the 125 kilogram handles into the 450 something yoke. And so I was looking at some of that, and I think you're fairly accurate with these. Trey could potentially do a little bit better. I think you're spot on with Maxime. From what I've seen, he's really he's pretty good at this, and I think he's going to do really well. Bobby, I'm unsure of, just because I know he has that foot thing going on and everything, and so he may not do as well with this. I forget what the weights are that they're doing with it.
For Giants medley, I'll dig that up for you. Have it in the same workbook. So we'll just go over to another tab, and we should have that there. And again, these were estimates that Big Laws gave before we ever started. So do not take this as confirmed.
Right.
But somewhere in the 450 to 485 kg for the yoke, and then somewhere in the 340 to 370 for the frame.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, which I think this would suit someone like Brian really well. I think you're accurate with that, and someone like Tom definitely. Bobby, you might be a little generous with. I think I'm not sure.
I feel like I'm killing him too hard on the Titans turntable, though, so maybe it balances out.
Yeah, true. That's a good point.
Yeah, I feel like maybe that foot thing, I'm kind of taking that too much to heart, and he does have some mobility. Like, he's not going to not be able to do the Titans turntable at all. So
well, he still won. He won his heat. And so no matter how much it is bugging him, obviously he can still function with it. It just depends on how much he lets it bug him, I guess, during the competition.
Jerry Pritchett didn't let a lot of things bug him. I mean, he soldiered on through the whole thing with multiple injuries, so you never know.
Right. Well, and I think as we've learned, that is definitely just Jerry's personality in general. Is like he's typically just going to power through and just keep working on it. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Giants Medley is not one of my favorite events, but I think it's really interesting to watch and to see how they do. I wonder. JF's kind of hit and miss with stuff with like this too. I'm trying to remember how he did in the previous one.
Yeah, let me have a look at what happened. So JF scored 4 points on that medley. Well, the different medley in the qualifiers, but with the frame. So he did. How did that loading race work? So it's saying he has 3 implements plus a distance of 10 meters. So I had some people telling me the loading was last, but apparently it was first.
I think the loading first.
How do you have not all the implements but still carry the frame? Like, are you allowed to give up on the loading part and go try the frame anyway? That's the part I'm not understanding.
No, because that was the big deal with like Alexi and everything, was that he couldn't finish the frame.
Right. A lot of guys didn't. So JF didn't either, because they're saying that he had 10.55 meters on the frame, but they're also saying 3 implements on the load. And some guys, like Brian Shaw, for example, has 4. It says 4 in 65.44.
Right. And I think the frame is considered the 4th implement.
Oh, okay. Thanks for clarifying.
I think that's what they're doing with that.
That makes sense. So it's 3 things to load plus the frame. Okay, that makes sense. So that being said, JF did 4 points in his heat, which was the loading plus 10.5 meters, let's say. And then Trey Mitchell, for example, did the 3 in a time but no frame distance. So if you want to compare guys.
Right. Yeah, I think that's how it reads. I think he just didn't even attempt the frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be interesting either way. Yeah, it's always kind of one of those weird ones, because I know with was it last year or the year before where a couple of the guys like Brian like stumbled or something or missed set or something like that, and so he lost 2 seconds and it bumped him down from 3rd to 6th place or something like that.
You're talking about the finals? In the finals, if I remember correctly, he just took a long time to set himself under the yoke. So it was an anvil into the yoke.
That's right. That's what it was. He just took a while to get set.
Yeah. He just took a while to get his hand placement and get set after the transition. Whereas if you go back and watch it, Jerry Pritchett, for example, for me was like a prototypical transition. He dropped the anvil, like floated over it right into the yoke. It was unbelievably athletic move. So kind of a contrast.
Yeah, that's right. Right. And that is something that Brian's always been bad at, is his transitions. And I know Laws has talked about this too and everything, where like he just takes a lot of time to transition between things. He doesn't move quickly necessarily.
I think he's also been working on that quite a bit in the past year. So we'll see. I don't know if it's, how much improvement is enough to gain placings, but there will be some sort of.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Well, I thought it was hilarious too, because everyone was saying he was going so slow with the loading medley, but then he got second in his heat. And at the same time, it's like, well, why burn yourself out if you don't have to, So
that's the other thing too. Like when if we talk about squats in the qualifiers, it's the same thing. When I was talking with Big Laws, he educated me on that, and probably since you've competed, this. But he was saying at World's Strongest Man, when you're going for squat for reps, if you go all out to get as many as you can possibly squeeze out, it can ruin the whole rest of the contest for you. So
yeah, definitely.
Medleys can work in the same way. Brian knew that he had some of these other, so let me go look at the other. He knew he was going to do well in squat. He ended up splitting the lead on that one. He knew he was going to kill it on fingers. He ended up winning that one. Overhead medley, which I'm notoriously getting heat for underestimating him, he won. Front hold is the only thing he didn't win. It's because he didn't have to do it. So he probably went. He needed 1 point. He couldn't zero it. He probably picked it up and put it back down and got his 1 point. But everything else, he knew he didn't have to burn himself out on that medley because he knew how good he was at the other things.
Yeah. And he got 5 seconds on it. So he pretty much picked it up, held it until, held it for a moment, basically, then put it back down.
Is that what it was? 5 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I see it now. Yeah, 5.64. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So he definitely was not going all out on that one.
One thing I'll say there, though, I'm looking at some of the other times, at least in his group, they're nowhere near what I thought they would be. With all of the guys saying how easy they thought it was, I thought we'd be at like 90 seconds because,
right.
Typical of what you think of a front hold is somewhere in the 50, 60-second range, right? And I'm looking at 30s here, 20. It must have been harder than they thought from the boneyard.
Well, and I think part of it, too, was the guys who probably could go longer didn't have to because they had already won it, So some of the guys, where was it? So like Bobby Thompson, Bobby probably could have gone a bit longer. I get the feeling that he's fairly decent at this sort of thing. But I think he went long enough to win it and called it a day. And then some of those, I kind of wonder if the same thing with like Ivers, because Ivers got 32.51, so he got 1 second faster than Gav Bilton. And I think it was just enough to make sure that he won it while still trying to save energy for the stones. But without actually watching the footage, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you on that.
Right. So what do we think of keg toss? I think there's no way you can disagree with my top 2 guys on keg, right?
Oh, are you there?
Yeah, I still hear you.
Okay, it froze for a moment. Keg toss, that's another one that I was looking up a bunch. I think it's Brian's. I really like if it's a collection of implements, Tom might be able to beat Brian on it just because looking at previous competitions and everything, they're both really good at it. But with a standalone, if it's just one keg for height, I was looking back through previous competitions, and pretty much the only person who's ever beat Brian is Hofthor. And so I don't know, watching all of Tom's training and stuff, he's good at it. He's definitely really good. Yeah. But I think that's Brian's event. I would definitely give Tom second. After that, I don't know if Luke's going to be third. He's good at it, but
JF's pretty decent at it, isn't he? Maybe JF takes third.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem is like JF has done well in competition, but I haven't seen his training because he doesn't post.
He doesn't show anything.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about that. That's kind of a toss up where it could go really well. It might not. I'm not sure with that one.
I'm being told I'm not giving Adam Bishop enough credit there, so maybe maybe he should be up higher.
Yeah, Adam's decent at it. Well, because watching his videos, he made some of them and he missed some too. So like he's got the power, the explosive power, I think, but the accuracy he may not have. And I think they get 3 attempts, right?
I thought I heard Laws say 2, but I'm not sure.
Oh, 2 attempts? Okay. So either way, like it's Adam might do well with it, but I don't know. Some of his videos, he just I I don't know. I think he has the explosive power. I'm not sure if he has the accuracy to actually get it over the bar.
Yeah, and I mean, I think all of us would say maybe even 8 points instead of the 7 I gave him. All of us would say Trey has a wow factor when it comes to kegs. We saw him at Texas Strongest Man, and
oh yeah,
it was a sight to behold.
Yeah, he. Well, that's kind of what I'm going towards. Like, I kind of think Trey's going to beat out Luke with that.
Yeah, you know what I tried to do, and this is not a direct comparison, but you go use what's at your disposal. So what I tried to do was go by the overhead medleys and how they did with that, because it's a different grip, but it's a kind of a similar motion. So I kind of went with that and then adjusted because like whatever Brian did in the overhead medley, he's going to win this. So he won his overhead medley, but I don't think he did better than every single person, but he will do better than every single person here. So I kind of took that as a framework and then adjusted within there.
Yeah, I think that's a good safe bet. I kind of feel like Trey's probably going to do a little bit better. Luke, from watching his stuff, maybe not. I feel like Luke's probably going to get like 6 points or something like that. I'm wondering about Maxime, though, because he's had some good throwing stuff in the past, but I've never seen him for a keg for height. So I can't think of him doing that. So I'm not sure how he'd do with that one.
Yeah, again, like it's a different motion, but he's become very explosive with a circus dumbbell, and that's kind of one of the two hands for the keg, right? So
it's a similar-ish movement. So I think that one will be kind of interesting. I think you're fairly accurate with Bobby. I've never really seen him as being much of a thrower. But we'll see. And Constantine, I can't think of how. Let me pull some of that up. I can't think of how Constantine is done with like throwing stuff.
So I had some prep information about him. He actually competed with sandbag over bar not too long ago. Let's see if I can dig that back.
Oh, was that in the Arnold?
May have been.
Where was that? Was that? No, it wasn't 2017.
Constantine took third place in a 5-bag over bar run at Siberian Power Show. So that's what I had.
Oh, at Siberian. Okay. Yeah, and that's not too bad actually then.
And that's recent experience, right? That's the trouble I always have when people say, like, you're totally ignoring what so-and-so did last year at World's Strongest Man. I'm like, that's what, 8 months ago? Like, maybe that's when you're only competing once a year, like, maybe that's indicative of the pattern of their performances at World's Strongest Man, or maybe it's like they're not at that level right now. Who knows?
Yeah.
So that's why I try to, even though prep isn't always showing their peak, or sometimes it's showing an exaggerated version of themselves, you got to take it into consideration a little bit because it's a recent window into what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. And I think, and that's kind of the same thing where like, like my max deadlift that I've done is 655. But if you asked me to do that today, I probably couldn't get 655. I could probably get 620 something. But I haven't worked up to that and built up to that level again. And so, yeah, you're right. Like if you haven't peaked properly in that event, it's pointless to assume that you'll perform the same as you did the previous year. But
speaking of peaking at the right time, before World's Strongest Man began, I was a little bit worried for Athor Melstead since he just won Strongest Man in Iceland. And I believe when he and I spoke, he told me the difference. It's kind of like, how the women have Strongest Woman in the World and World's Strongest Woman. They're two different, two different affiliations. So does Iceland. There's Iceland's Strongest Man and Strongest Man in Iceland, I believe. So he won the latter.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, two different promotions.
He's come in on fire. He was doing a lot better than I expected.
My worries have been alleviated. Like if he either, I talked to Laz about this too, and he had an interesting takes at the time, so it's kind of come to pass a little differently. But like I said, you can't roast anybody for predictions because who knows what's going to happen. Especially look what all of these things that have happened in World's Strongest Man. So you try your best and you see what happens, and that's the fun of it. But Aethor, what Laz said to me, because I gave him this question, I said, so is he going to be in trouble because he peaked for Strongest Man in Iceland, or do you feel like he hasn't peaked yet and didn't need his best for Strongest Man in Iceland? And Laz had a third option. He thought it was neither of those. He said, I don't think World's Strongest Man is as important to him as being the strongest man in Iceland. So, yeah, he said basically like to him, it's a national pride thing, strongest man in Iceland, and he doesn't really feel like he's going to win World's Strongest Man. Whereas that he had a shot. I mean, he was second to Hafthor, I think, a couple of times. So like it was his win, right?
I know. Well, and that's kind of the bummer with him is he's been in the game for a number of years now, but Hafthor was taking the entire spotlight, and so nobody even knows who Aethor is. Aethor, yeah.
Yep.
So most people don't even know who he is, just because, like, yeah, he was overshadowed.
They trained together, by the way. That dude, I got to tell you, I mean, he's famous and accomplished in his own right. Don't take anything other than that out of what I'm about to say. But he trains in two gyms. One of them is Hafthor's gym, and one of them is Magnus for Magnussen's gym. What a freaking wonderful way to train.
You're like, all right, how many other World's Strongest Men gyms can I get a membership at and get some pointers? Magnus is definitely one that I would love to have some time training with, because I bet he's a wealth of knowledge on how to do different stuff and how to improve different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
But yeah, so I guess that peak conundrum didn't matter. He went to the finals. He's doing just fine.
Yeah, I know. We'll see how he does once it starts up again tomorrow. But I think he's holding his own fairly well.
I'm looking at how he did. So he got 2 points in the loading race. He got three points in the squat, so he did well on the squat. He won Fingal's fingers. I must have forgotten about that. He won Fingal's fingers for his group. And then
he had train push in his group.
Oh, sorry. Why did I say Fingals? He won train push.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won train push. It's weird. I'm looking right at it and I read it wrong. I'm getting old, Isaac. I'm getting old.
That's fine. That's why us young guys are here to correct you.
Yeah, I need it for sure. So he won train push, 3 points on the overhead medley, and 4 points on the front hold. So, yeah, really consistent performance. And when it wasn't consistent, it was going up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's the way, honestly, that's the way to do it. Like, and then he got into the stone off with Obi, and it was kind of a toss up. I wasn't quite sure. I figured Aethor was going to win the stone off, but
you called that one right. We got to give you credit on that.
I know. Well, and Obi, I was second guessing because I figured Aethor was going to win it, but I was like, Obi's having a crazy competition, so maybe he's going to pull it off somehow.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, getting an Atlas stone over a particular height is easier when you are taller.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot more to it, but that is one factor.
Yeah, no, it's true, and I'm not going to argue with you on that one. You're spot on. Height definitely helps with that.
Yeah, so I thought Obi would take it, but how many stones did they end up doing? He did a decent number of stones.
They did 5.
5. I mean, wasn't among the very best, but it wasn't bad either.
No, and that's the one other thing is if Obi would have gotten 1 rep on the squat, then he would have ended up in second place, and Aethor would have been in third, and so then Obi would just have to match Aethor. But instead, Aethor just had to match Obi, and
So for the audience members who are watching who aren't aware what happened there, do you want to explain what change transpired here?
Yeah, so with the stone off, when they were doing the stone, whoever was in second place just had to equal the reps of whoever was in third place. So in years past, a lot of times you have to beat them. You have to do one extra rep, one more rep, basically. But the way they did it was, I guess the person who was in third place started, and so they would do a rep, and then the person who was in second would send it back. And it was basically when the person who was in third place couldn't do another rep, the one in second automatically won, even though they were tied. And that's pretty much how it worked on every single one of these. I don't think anyone from third was able to beat the person in second place this year.
It's a good question. Let me have a look. Let's see. So Ivar's no. Mark Felix obviously no, because he was against Tom. Nothing against Mark. It's because he was against Tom Stoltman.
Yeah.
Robert was third, and he was not able to beat Athor. Jerry was third and riddled with injuries, so he was only able to do 2, unfortunately. And then Kevin Ferris was not able to beat Luke, but that was epic 7 stones.
Yeah, that was a pretty – I can't wait to watch that one because, I mean, Luke's a decent stone lifter, definitely. And Kevin's a pretty decent stone lifter as well.
Yeah.
But going back and forth 7 times with it was a 210 kilogram stone?
210. Well, it began lighter. It worked up to 210 unless they changed that too. They changed a few things. So unless they changed that too. But it was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to start at 140 and work its way up to 210, which I believe was 5 stones. So the guys that did 7 did that 5th stone 3 times.
Man, that's crazy. That's and especially in the heat, I would love to hear everyone's complaints about the tacky and all that, and see how the tacky held up. But
yeah,
we'll see.
For sure. Where did okay, so Adam had Jerry Pritchett. I was gonna say, I remember Adam doing prep. I think he was doing 210s for 3, exactly that many reps in prep. But didn't need it, obviously.
Yeah. Which is still, I mean, man, I feel bad for Jerry. I hope he heals up. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's been in the game for a while. But yeah, I felt like that one, when I saw that they were doing a stone off because Terry and Chris were both out, it was like, I'm positive Adam's going to take it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what your goals are, right? So if his goals are to make the finals or make the podium, it's disappointing. But if his goal is to give the best of himself and put on a show, we haven't seen footage, but I'm sure he did that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he did. I mean, I'm sure he's a performer. I mean, to be a strongman competitor, you have to be a little bit of a circus performer, you know?
Yeah.
So, well, let's go on. So log lift, I'm actually super excited about because I really want to see Bobby and Luke Stoltman go head to head, because Bobby came off, he just won the American log record. From everything he's saying, he made it sound like he's got the world record in the bag. But Luke's saying the same thing too. So that could be fun. That could be entertaining.
Yeah, Luke is a little bit of an enigma this time around, because if you remember, right before World's Strongest Man started, maybe a couple of days before, he and his brother did a video doing their predictions of who they thought were going to win, which is, those guys are clever. They're funny to watch. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I didn't watch that video mostly because I was like, they're both competing. They're going to be heavily biased. I don't really want to know who they're assuming is going to win, just because I don't want it to bias me too much.
The funny thing is, it was almost like a good cop, bad cop thing. Like Luke was trying to be honest, and he would say like, so and so is very good here, and so and so, and Tom just kept saying, "I'm gonna win that one. I'm gonna win that one. I'm gonna win that one." So it was pretty funny. But
oh my
Luke
goodness.
looked like.
Is that with the Heat, or was that with?
I think they did both. They talked about both, if I recall. They're kind of out like on a picnic table, like on the water, maybe on a lake or something, talking about it. And yeah, like I mentioned this in a few of my other videos. Luke looked somber, maybe is the right word, but then looking back on how well he did, maybe it was introspective, and I just mistook it for like I was thinking like he doesn't seem excited. Like Tom seems excited. So is Luke is he motivated? Like is something happening in his life or whatever? But then they showed another video of them on the bus on the way there. And he was just talking about how focused he was. And I guess that's all it was, because as you see, he's performed very well. So
yeah,
whatever, if there was anything wrong, it hasn't bothered him. And maybe there wasn't anything wrong to begin with.
Yeah. Well, because they both ended up getting second in their group. And it's really interesting looking at their points because Tom won the loading race. And then he got fourth in the deadlift, third in the train push, third in the overhead medley, and third in the front hold. And then Luke got 4, 3, 4, 4, and 3. So both of them, so Tom won the loading medley, but like both of them were just very consistent, second or third place basically, and it's enough to win basically and end up in the finals.
Yeah.
As long as you feel confident with the stone off, which. Obviously,
it's funny you say that. I'm looking at it now, and yeah, their scores are eerily similar in pattern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so we'll see. So yeah, Bobby or Luke are definitely going to win the max log, and the other one will take second.
Yeah, this is another event like the keg toss where the top is easy to predict, and then it gets harder after that.
I know. I see that you have a bunch tied for 2 points.
I have some ties for 6 as well.
Yeah.
So I have Luke getting the max. I have Bobby getting the next highest weight. Then I have Tom getting the next highest weight. Then I have Brian, Trey Mitchell, and Maxime tying for the next highest weight. And then I have JF getting the next highest weight after that. And then the remaining 3 tied for the opening weight. Aethor, Constantine, and Adam, but I think I'm probably low on Aethor at least. Where else do you think I'm off?
I have a feeling Brian is going to do a little better. I don't know, because watching his prep and watching some of his logs in the past and everything, he's not the best log lifter, but he's a pretty good one. I mean, he's anything overhead, he's fairly decent at least.
Let's see. And again, we talked to death about the danger of looking at prep too closely, but let's see who showed the best. Maxime showed 195.5 kilo for 3, so I would estimate that out to about 208 for a max. Graham's not here. Let's see. Trey did a 200 for 1.
Yeah. Brian did better than Oberst.
Yeah. I don't know what the weight was, so I had to just describe what I saw.
Okay.
By the way, like I mean that as a compliment. I consider Robert Oberst like what's the right word? Baseline is not being kind enough. The standard I consider like Robert Oberst a considerable standard for log, and Brian was better, so it's a compliment to both of them.
Right, and yeah, I would kind of go with that. I think Brian is probably going to get a little more, a few more points. I think Brian might beat Tom with the log.
So Bobby showed the heaviest log, 217.5 kilos, and Luke showed the next heaviest log at 212.
Right.
Well, estimated. He did 200 for 3, so I estimate that out to 212.
Right.
So what we saw in
Which
prep
we
would
know
be Bobby
that-
and Luke and then Maxime.
What's that?
From if we're going just by prep footage, it would be Bobby, Luke, Maxime.
Yeah, I'd probably go more along those lines.
Then Trey and Tom are around the same.
Right. I think you're giving Tom a little more credit with the max log. I'd probably put Tom down at like 6 points. I'd probably put Brian up a little bit and Maxime up a little bit. Yeah, but that's tough. And especially it's one of those things because they've already done the Giants medley, which is going to take a lot of energy. The keg toss won't take as much because it's fairly light. It's what, 39 kilograms, something like that?
No, less than that. 30, I think, isn't it?
Is it 30 kilograms?
Let me see. I have it written down.
Keg
See,
is this is why I brought you on.
15.
Oh, 15 kilos. So that
33 pounds.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking, 33 pounds. So I think in that regard, like the keg toss will probably be a really nice break for them because the Giants medley is going to take some energy. Those are heavy implements. It burns you out because you do all your warm-ups and everything, and then you do the actual event. So Giants medley is going to be a high energy event. Keg toss, I mean, as long as you're limber enough and have decent blood flow, you don't have to do any like heavy lifting or anything with that. So it's not going to be stressing your CNS or anything like that. So keg toss will be a nice break. And then log lift, so they might actually be fairly fresh by the time log lift comes around then. Because it's at the end of the day, they'll have had 6 hours or so between them, so they can be eating, stretching, getting some blood flow.
You know how they determine the order?
The order?
The order in which each competitor competes in the finals?
No, I haven't heard. Someone was saying that they're going to do it by last name, but I don't know if that's the case or if that's just what they said because the spreadsheet was organized in that way. So I haven't heard for sure one way or the other.
Should be some sort of performance-based thing, right? Like Brian cruised through, so he goes last, or I don't know, some formula like that.
Usually, well, it varies based on like the first event can kind of vary, and then after that, it's whoever's in last place goes first, and it goes from there. So I'm not sure how they're gonna set up the Giants medley. If they're doing it based off of points, who is it? So Janasha should go first, and then JF, and then Brian.
I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on Brian has a particular, I don't know if he always did, but in this prep leading up to World's Strongest Man, he has a very particular keg toss style. And I don't know if that style is because he's going for max height, but it's like, how do I describe it? Like a backwards, like hop, skip, and a throw. Like it's not just, he doesn't just stand there and swing it. So I'm wondering, like, if he goes first, what are your thoughts on someone watching him and being able to try to replicate it, or does that just take months of practice and they shouldn't even attempt it?
I think however you've trained, whatever pattern you've established with your body, by the time it comes time for competition, don't try and change that pattern last minute. You're right. Brian does have a unique style. And it's one that works really well for him. And I've seen other people try and duplicate it, and it doesn't work very well. So I think probably because of his basketball background, I'm assuming that's where he kind of designed it from. But if someone else is watching him and then tries to emulate him, I'd say don't bother, just because it's going to throw you off and your body's not used to doing that. So you want to go with the pattern that you've trained with.
Yeah, it's an advanced technique, right? It just, there's more different movements going on, which if you perfect it like he has, now you got the keg already moving before you even begin. So you have
Right.
you have momentum already before you've even begun. So I can see why it works better and is an advantage for him, but I can also see how it's a multifaceted technique that would take a lot of time to master.
It is highly entertaining to see this 400-some pound dude do this little hop, though, and then hurl the keg into the sky. So I'll admit, like, it's fun to watch.
I wonder, too, if he's doing that for, like, next time he has to compete for time, he gets to the bar faster.
It could be, yeah. I don't know inside the head of Brian, but yeah, no, he could definitely have other factors playing into that as well.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, and that's the thing, is if it was a series of kegs, I'd say Tom would probably beat Brian, just because Brian's transitions are horrible. He's not the slowest one out there, but he's by no means the fastest. But since it's the one, and he has, is it 60 or 75 seconds? I don't remember. I think, he has plenty of time to set up properly, to get into his headspace and all that sort of thing. I can't see anyone beating him at the keg toss.
No. So what do we think about the deadlift? Now I'm hearing from folks in my audience that it's a standard 9-inch.
That's what I was hearing again today. So I've been hearing for a while. Yeah. So I'm not sure what to think, I guess, is the thing. Because I saw some pictures of some of the boxes and stuff, and it looked like it was going to be elevated, but maybe they're standing on a platform when they do it then.
Yeah, probably.
So maybe they'll adjust it that way.
I think they used a platform in the qualifiers, right?
I don't remember.
I thought I saw a clip somewhere that
of someone right.
on our platform. Yeah.
Yes, I think you're right. I think I did look that up. So it's very possible they could be doing it as a 9-inch. I think either way, JF is going to win it. I
agree.
I don't see anyone beating him on the deadlift.
Bobby's a monster, though. Bobby's, if anybody's going to be there, it's Bobby. But I foresee it to be like, and I understand this was a 13-inch, but like the Shaw Classic last year, like Jerry's the best guy there, except for JF.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, though, because like Adam Bishop is a really phenomenal deadlifter too. And so if someone beats Bobby, I would say it's going to be Adam.
Yeah, they're saying it's for reps now, right? So that might make a bit of a difference.
Yeah. So, and I think that's what's going to change it a little bit too. If it was for max weight, I would definitely say Bobby all the way. But if it's for reps, I think I'd probably say Adam over Bobby.
Let's see. Adam did do deadlift in the qualifiers. He got 9 reps. So he won deadlift. Adam won deadlift in a stacked deadlift group, albeit Jerry was injured. But Janasha's a big deadlifter. Adam beat him. Chris Van der Linde's a big deadlifter. He was sick, though, but Adam beat him by a lot. And Terry Hollins is a big deadlifter, and Adam beat him by 3 reps.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, because Adam and Bobby were the only ones who got 9 reps. Janasha got 8, so, I mean, he's not that far off. But and then, yeah, Trey, Tom, and Mark all got 8 as well.
Right. Yeah, and then JF didn't have deadlift, so he's like, I'm just going to go do 11 reps on squat instead.
JF is a beast. Like, I think he's so underrated. I think people always forget about him, and then he comes up and he just, I mean, granted, he's not as well rounded as someone like Tom or Brian necessarily, but he's a phenomenal strongman.
Oh yeah.
And especially with deadlift, squat, stuff like that. I can't see anyone beating him. Yeah, some of the others, like Maxime's not a terrible deadlifter, but against some of these other guys, though,
yeah, no, Maxime is good in the rest of the world. Like against this level of opposition, he's lower. Like because when he and I talked, he was saying, I'm working on getting my deadlift up, and I was like, oh, your deadlift's low. He's like, it's in the 800s, but compared to world's strongest men, like it's low, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, he's wanting to talk. Mine's way below that. I got to get it up like 300 pounds to be competitive.
Max is deceptive. Like, I don't know why, if it's the beard or what, that I didn't realize how big he is. Like, Max is 6'4". He's not a small guy.
Yeah.
And I think he's 6'4", 350 something.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think he's just a little shorter than me, but he has quite a bit of weight on me. So
yeah. Here we go. 6'4", 320.
Gav's only 6'6".
Yeah.
He looks bigger than that.
6'6" is big. You're just used to being that tall.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I know. I just, whenever I see pictures of him with people and stuff, he always just looks bigger, but.
Yeah. I started, like, I gave all these heights and weights before I started in an effort to try to think of who would do well on Titan's turntable, because I considered it an inertia defeating sort of movement where a bigger guy would do better, and they've changed it now. But that's why I kind of wrote all these things down. But it's a good little handy reference, I think.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, JF 6'3", 342.
Man, and then there's Kevin. What a lightweight.
Man, I thought Alexi was light.
I know. Kevin, it's so funny because, like,
he's so freaking strong, though. He is so freaking strong.
He's a big dude, but then you put him up against all these other guys, and you're like, well, Gav's almost twice his weight. Like,
yeah. The funny thing is, I was changing my son's diaper one day, and so I'm going to pull his pants off, and he like grabs the waistband, and my son's too. Grabs the waistband, he wouldn't let go, and I'm trying to, I couldn't get the pants off. I'm like, what are you, Kevin Ferris? Let go.
Kevin is surprisingly strong for his size. Well, I mean, so is Adam. Adam's not, but Adam has 50 pounds on him, though. So
Adam's deceptively big. Like 320 is a big guy. Like, I don't know if you caught that the rugby versus strongman video that Big Loz did. Yeah. When Adam's walking around with normal people, he's a big guy.
He's a big guy. But then you see him at World's Strongest Man, and you're like, oh, you're kind of small. Yeah, do you have so you have everybody's weight and everything on here? Graham hit 5'10" at 360. Sheesh.
Yeah, Graham's going to challenge Eddie for the greatest BMI ever, I think. But I was doing BMIs only of World's Strongest Men winners, so I didn't get a chance to do everyone else yet.
Oh, there you go. I'm sure there's a couple guys that have beat Eddie as far as BMI is.
Gav's pretty high.
Yeah, Gav's a big boy.
I'm gonna do it now while we're talking. BMI calculator. I won't share it on the screen because I don't want to flip back and forth, but I'll let you know what it is.
Yeah.
All right, so Gavin is 6'6". I mean, he's really tall, so it might not be that much, but
right.
No, he's over 50, 50.8.
Man.
That might be, I think Eddie was 50.4. I'm sorry, Eddie was 54. Big Z was 50.4. Oh,
okay. Well, what's Graham then? Graham's got to be.
Graham might take all of them. He might take all of them.
5'10" at 360? Oh, my goodness.
Let's see. 5'10", 359. Let's not exaggerate. 51.5, so still lower than Eddie, but second highest I've ever measured.
Yeah. Still big. Still very, very large.
Yeah, I mean, a typical human is in the mid-20s. 50 is crazy.
Well, depending on which part of the world you're looking at. With Americans, it's more like the low 30s.
All right, well, there you go.
Probably more average, but well, sweet. Let's go back. Do you have? I was gonna say let's because the Titans turntable, that's one of the ones that I'm definitely looking forward to. But like I said, I was really disappointed when I saw the video of Terry doing it in flip flops with no belt, no sleeves, no nothing, pushing it around in a circle, and I was like, all right, like that's. So it's not as heavy as I thought it was going to be, but
right. Yeah, it's I'm sure I'm way off on these now that I've heard that, but there's only so many times I'm going to change it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Who cares? It's just fun to go through it,
Yeah, I still think someone like Brian is going to win it. Just because, I mean, he's just really good at stuff like that. It seems like. He's I don't know if he's ever won a Conan's wheel or anything like that. I know he usually places fairly high, except for the year that he was hurt.
Yeah. I feel like if we had a prime Evan Singleton at the peak of his powers in the finals, he'd do well.
I know. I was very disappointed that Evan didn't make it into the finals. I think Evan, a lot of these events were really well suited to Evan. Maybe not the keg toss as much, but the medley and the deadlift and the turntable, like I think he'd do really well with those.
Yeah, it's a shame that he ended up being sick.
Yeah.
Think about it. He had train push, so if by like ill or sick, and it's still a rumor, but I think he mentioned in a post that he was sick, so I don't think it's really a rumor anymore. But imagine
couple people that were there now that were saying even between events he was not looking well.
Yeah, like if what he had was a flu, for example, you know how tired a flu makes you feel? Go try to push a train like that. Like that's imagine like if I have a bad flu, which I had recently. Well, I don't think I had a flu, but I had something.
Sit on the couch.
Yeah, I had like something respiratory. I didn't want to get out of bed, much less go push a train.
Yeah. No, he still put out. He still did pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I don't know. I'm thinking. What do you think? Maxime should be a little higher here. Let's. How about I rip my own apart? Let's do that.
Let me see. JF, I think you're probably fairly accurate on. Tom might do pretty well with it, especially if it's not as heavy as we were thinking. Tom might beat Trey.
Here's the question. Are they going to push it in a Zercher hold like Terry did, or are they going to do arms extended?
Oh, it froze. What'd you say?
Nah, you're back. So the question is, what's up, cranky old man? Good evening. I'm new to World's Strongest Man and was wondering why they chose final placement in the semifinals by the last event instead of overall points. You want to take that one, Isaac?
So, whoever wins the heat is they automatically get into the finals. And then why they chose final placement in the semifinals. So that's something that they've been doing just for a couple of years now, where they do like a stone off or something at the end. And so I'm not completely sure what all their reasoning is behind it, but basically it's for that chance for third place to be able to potentially make it to the finals, even if they missed a couple events and didn't have quite all the points. And so they've started doing this more recently, where they do a stone off, and it's second versus third. And so this time it was just second place just has to match third place with the number of reps for the stone. And basically all of them were able to do that.
And it is unique to World's Strongest Man, or fairly unique to World's Strongest Man. Many other competitions do it, cranky old man, the way that you're describing, which is who won the most events rather than the last event. And it's one of the things about World's Strongest Man that there's a bit of an uproar about. So good question.
Yeah, some people love it, some people hate it. I'm one of the ones that I wish they'd change it a little bit. I don't quite like the format that they're doing with it, but I don't make the call on that. I don't have decisions on that. But great question. Thank you.
Yeah, that was very good question. So, all right. So I'm going to stick with Brian. Well, I don't know. Like, then do we want fast and explosive and not big and heavy? So Maxime should probably be higher. JF, I think we keep where he is.
Yeah.
Some of these guys like Trey, I scored high because of how they did on the train push. And this is why I'm asking the question about whether we think they're going to Zercher hold it like Terry was, or arms extended like the train push was, because if it's the latter, then we can extrapolate from that. And if it's not, we can't.
I haven't heard one thing or the other. I'm assuming that they're leaving it up to the athletes. And I'm assuming most of the athletes will probably do arms extended, pushing it.
And by the way, I'm only accounting for half the motion. A lot of it is leg drive, which would come into play both here and the train push. So maybe the approach I took was the right one.
Right. And I think because with a lot of these, like with a lot of the pushes and stuff, Brian's pretty solid. Yeah, Tom's pretty good at that type of stuff too, though.
He had to do train push, right? Let's see. Tom did a train push. So basically, let's see. I had Brian. Brian didn't do train push, but I just feel like he'd be good at this. Tom did his train push in 37.83. So Trey was faster than Tom in the same group in the train push. So I felt like I had to give Trey more points. They head-to-head did a similar motion.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Then Athor was not quite as fast as Trey, faster than Tom. They were all faster than JF.
Yeah.
And those are the only people who did train push who have made it to the finals. So everybody else I had to fit in there.
I think you're fairly accurate. I still think that Brian's probably going to win the turntable. Yeah, you're probably right. Trey's gonna, as long as he does the same performance that he did yesterday or day before, whenever it was. Yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm not sure. And Cranky Old Man. I think the order of the athletes is going to be a factor on the train push. I definitely think so. And you see that with a lot of the events where those that go first go all out, and then the ones who go later do just enough to win. So depending on where they're standing at that time, I think that's definitely going to factor in to how well everyone is going to do as well. And the other thing you have to factor in too is they're coming off of a deadlift. So they've already used a lot of their glutes, hamstring, back strength, depending on how good their recovery is. So with some people, like JF trains volume stuff a ton. He does really well at maintaining strength event to event. Whereas some of the other guys, you don't see that quite as much. So I still think you're fairly accurate with JF. I think JF is going to be middle of the pack, upper middle, somewhere in there. I still think Brian's probably going to win it. Trey, Maxime. Yeah, I think Maxime is going to do a little bit better, most likely. Max might beat JF actually.
How about Luke Stoltman? He can just kind of do this and log press it and it'll just fly away.
Well, it's for it's because they just have to go once around, right?
I think it's not even a full revolution. I think it's 180 degrees from what I heard.
Yeah. So
or maybe 180 degrees is what I heard the temperature in Sacramento is.
I hope not, because I've never been in weather that hot, but I've been in 135s, and that was horrible. So
wow, that's crazy.
It's not a lot of fun. I think you're fairly accurate with Bobby and Adam, Constantine. I think they're probably going to be down towards the bottom. Max might beat JF. The others, I think you're probably fairly accurate on, actually.
JF's been training Max, so it's Karate Kid's going to beat Mr. Miyagi.
And different people are gifted in different events naturally as well, and we've seen that Max is pretty good at movement, pretty good at moving events.
Very good.
Whereas JF's decent at them. Okay, compared to the rest of the world, JF is a phenom. But compared to the 10 strongest people in the world, JF's not the best. So we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Here's another good point. Yeah. Depending on how the grease due to the weather is affected. If it's super hot, it might make it really easy, actually, because it'll increase the
less viscous.
Yeah. So
it's interesting about the heat on the qualifying train push. So they were talking about, they thought the heat made the brakes expand, but then I'm hearing, I think Big Laz broke the news where it was actually just too heavy. Like it wasn't the brakes.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that yet, but
which I had been saying all along when I heard the weight, because I heard 50 tons when the caboose and the car were together. That's too much.
That's way too much. Yeah.
Like they're the strongest guys in the world. I get it. But Isaac, you and I have spoken to guys like James Stanko to get an idea of like what a heavy truck pull is. And what was he pulling? Like 65, 70,000 pounds? I think it was 60. Like yeah. So if he's pulling 65 and he's not as heavy or as accomplished as the world's strongest men, I was thinking 80, 85 is probably about right. But 20,000 pounds more than that, it's too much.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. And especially when you have someone like Johnny Hansen, who was it? Or Johnny Hansen, who is arguably one of the best in the world. And he can't even budget. Like,
yeah.
That's not a great sign.
Ronnie, if I remember right, was practicing with a flatbed with a giant tractor on it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But okay, and then moving on to Stones.
Yeah, you want to wrap it up with Stones and go off into the night?
Yeah, right. I think Tom is probably going to win it.
Yeah, and real quick, let me just answer Cranky Old Man real quick. So 50 tons, these guys aren't exactly human, but that would be ridiculous. Yeah, so they ended up detaching the train car and making it 25 tons instead of 50, so 50,000 pounds, which now seems slightly light, so they changed it to a push instead of a pull.
Yeah, which, I mean, 50,000 pounds is still a lot of weight. And a pull is very different than a push as well, because with a pull you have the harness attached to your body, and it's, you can still use your arms and everything else to move it, whereas when you're pushing, you don't have that upper body motion to increase your momentum. So you could
tell when Brian and Evan Singleton were practicing with a pickup truck push, you could tell that it's more difficult, although the driver, Steve Foshin, I'm talking to you, I saw those brake lights come on.
He was just making sure that it didn't go too fast.
He was adding weight is what he was doing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you steal away the momentum, then they have to reinitiate momentum. So it's a great way to train.
Yeah. But I've done that. Sorry to cut you off. Back to Stones.
Oh yeah, no. I was going to say too, though. I've done that even with my car. Have someone, I'll be pushing the car, and someone will tap the brakes just to stop the momentum. So then you have to restart it. And it's a miserable way to train, but it gets you really good at establishing that initial push, getting the initial movement going.
Yeah.
With Stones. Tom's probably going to win it. I can't really see anyone beating him. I would be really amazed. I would love it, actually, if like Max or Brian would beat Tom, just because it'd be like out of the blue, I guess. But
I would love Max to take it, not because I want him to beat Tom, but because I root for Max and I want him to do well.
Yeah, Max is a great guy. He's a really awesome guy.
When he was the first one, I think, to win the Stone Off, and I DM'd him right after that. I'm like, I told everybody you were gonna kill on stones. I told them.
I know. No, he's a beast. Yeah, he's a great guy. So I wonder if he's going to do a little bit better though, because from everything that I've been hearing, he's been training stones a ton.
He might
actually. What's that?
He might beat JF in this.
Yeah.
JF is very good with stones, though. That's the thing. I mean, the guys I have above him are all world-class stone. Like Stoltman, Brian Shaw, Trey Mitchell, and JF are the only guys I have above him. They're all exceptional stone lifters.
Yeah. Crinkle man. I think Brian would be the only one to have a chance of beating Tom on stones. Probably
right.
3 or 4 years ago, I would say it's probably going to be Brian that would win the stones, especially in this selection. Lately, Brian just, I don't know, he doesn't move as fast. He's not as he's too methodical. But at the same time, this year, everything he's been putting up, he's been moving fast through stuff. And you watch a lot of his training, and he was keeping up with Evan. He was keeping up with, Obi, all these other guys. So he's definitely training his movement between implements. So if that's the case, yeah, but I don't know. Tom, I don't know. I think Tom's going to win it pretty well. Yeah, Trey, I feel like Trey would be below JF, but I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. They're all right up there, though.
Yeah, I mean, so the pattern that we're going through here is if we have JF gain a couple of points here and there, I don't think it gets him any higher than third because I have him too far behind Brian. But if we follow the pattern, I think Maxime might come up a place or two.
Yeah, and that's what I'm wondering is I think Max. I don't think Max will podium this year, but I think he'll be up there a little bit.
I think Laz and Liz had him in the top 5, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Crinkle man. Brian's looked much better this year, so that is why I say that. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Brian definitely he seems to have that fire back that he hasn't had the last 2 or 3 years. And I can pull up I have Strongman Archive up next, so we can pull up some of that and look at some of the last couple of years, how everyone's done. Brian's been in a slump for the last 2 or 3 years. I think he was so focused on, he started Evolution Athletics. He started all this other stuff. He's been starting these other businesses. He was doing Strongest Men in History. I think he's just been preoccupied the last couple of years. And this is the first year in about 4 years, to be honest, where he's actually looked hungry. He's actually coming back to win it again. So I don't know. We'll see. I think he's dangerous this year.
Yeah, and I got to run soon, but I looked it up, and Laz and Liz do have Maxime in their top 5.
Okay.
They have Brian Shaw, Tom Stoltman, Bobby Thompson, Luke Stoltman. They have both Stoltmans in their top 5: Bobby Thompson, Brian Shaw, and Maxime.
Really? Wait. Yeah. So what order do they have them in?
I don't remember. I don't want to play the sound now because you might hear it. Well,
gotcha.
Let me see if they say. I think they said in no particular order, but let me see. Hold on.
Okay, interesting.
You hear that?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're saying what order.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, they're not far off. Both the Stoltmans are looking really good. I I don't know if Bobby's going to finish top 5 this year. Bobby, okay, so like max log lift, definitely. He's going to do amazing with that. Knack deadlift, yeah, I could see him doing amazing with that. The medley, maybe. Keg toss, I don't think he's going to do that well. Turntable, I don't think he's going to do that well. Atlas stones, I don't think he's going to do that well. I can't see Bobby finishing top 5. I could see both the Stoltmans finishing top 5. I can definitely see Brian finishing right up there. I think Brian's going to win it. I think Brian is going to get his 5th title this year. But
this is so funny. I was saying I was surprised that they had both Stoltmans in their top 5. I didn't realize. So do I.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I agree with that. I think both the Stoltmans are really – they're coming into their own. You know, they're really becoming phenomenal strongmen. It would be crazy because I think they would be the first – they were the first brothers to both get into the finals together. It would be hilarious if they're the first brothers to both podium together as well.
Yeah. But yeah, so I had to I had to roast Laz and Liz a little bit for not having JF in their top 5. Like, okay, you think he's not going to win? Maybe you think he's not going to even make podium. There ain't no way he's not making the top 5.
Yeah.
And somebody gave me crap about it in my comments, and I was like, listen, you know, we're friendly with each other. He busts on me, I bust on him. There's
right.
no hard feelings. It's all in good fun, you know. It's all in good fun. But yeah, but I don't see any way JF doesn't make the top 5. I mean, that's crazy to me.
I honestly, I don't like. I think JF is going to be on the podium. I think your podium finishers are correct, but I think it's going to be Brian, Tom, JF. So just switch the first 2. I don't see Luke beating JF. I don't see Trey. I honestly can't see anybody beating JF. Like, yeah, I don't know. But at the same time, he hasn't released any of his prep footage or anything like that.
Yeah.
But he did really well in everything. He actually got second in the loading race, which I was really surprised about. But then almost nobody in his group finished the frame. So,
yeah. I mean, hey, if Trey finishes 4th like this, I think that would be a big accomplishment for him. Like,
definitely. You know? Yeah. No, I would agree with that.
I was talking to Laz about this, and I said, you know, you got to go in there thinking you're going to win or else you won't do your best. And he told me, he's like, there's maybe 5 guys in here who think they're going to win. And so, like, he corrected me on that one right away. He's like, people say that, and, you know, they'll say it to other people and in the media, I'm going to win. But, like, to actually believe you're going to win, there's probably 5 guys there who believe they can win. So,
yeah. And yeah, I agree. I think a lot of those guys, are very happy that they made it to the finals, but I don't think they're assuming that they'll end up on the podium. But,
right. I mean, I think Bobby Thompson, when you interviewed him, he's pretty open about that, right? Like, didn't he say my immediate goal is making the finals? Like, wasn't he pretty open about that?
Right. And I think, you know, and even when I talked to him, when he would like to win World's Strongest Man at some point, but it wasn't his immediate goal. His goal was just to become a finalist. And he's done that, you know. So he and his goal was to take the American log record, and now he's done that too. So he's coming a long ways, but I don't think he's going to be on the podium this year. Well, how much more time do you have?
I got to really get going, but anything else you wanted to cover real quick?
Well, real quick, I wanted to go through some of the previous competitions.
All right.
Let me see. Pull this up right here. So, all right. So I got some of the older, last couple years. competitions. So with these, I mean, you can see that Brian was not in his own this year. Here, let's get the order set up. There we go. Brian, I mean, he did decently well. Wasn't in his own. But then he was beaten by Novikov, and Novikov didn't make the finals this year. And I think that shows too, kind of how we were saying, with prep and everything else, like if your prep is off or whatever, or if the events that you end up with aren't what you're best at, too bad. You're out of luck, you know?
Yeah, I mean, matching events with a certain guy comes into play a lot, except that I think Brian is well-rounded enough that it affects him less than other people. Last year was not a mismatch of events. It was he wasn't as focused as he is this year. And he's faster this year. And like that sort, it wasn't a like, that's why he's one of the greatest of all time. And Alexi's not yet, because Alexi won one and then couldn't make himself guaranteed to be in the mix this time again, whereas Brian's always in the mix.
Yeah. Brian is always in the discussion every year, no matter how he's doing. I mean, even when he got injured and was coming back from that and everything else, everyone just assumed he was going to make the finals, you know? And I feel like Tom is becoming a similar athlete where you're like, okay, Tom is probably going to be in the finals one way or the other. Tom is he's really becoming a well-rounded athlete where you can start to expect that of him. Mm-hmm. So, and like I said, last couple of years, Brian just hasn't been on his A game. The year previous, he got sixth the year previous. And you can see, you know, from this group too, where like, well, Martins, I wish Martins would hurry up and heal up and get back to it. But
if cars would stop hitting him, we'd be all right. The guy has the worst luck in the world. He has the worst luck in the world. A car hit him. Now he had what was it, an appendix burst recently? The poor guy.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it wasn't really his fault. None of the reasons why he hasn't been competing were really his fault. Yeah. Okay, we can't really say that. Same with Kieliskowski. I'd really like to see him coming back into it. But he had the tricep tear, and then what was the other thing that he had? He had something else going on too.
Didn't he get infected or something? Like it got re-injured or?
That's what it was. Yeah.
Like he was almost healed, but then it got infected. Something like along those lines.
Yeah. But you can see JF every year is creeping up. He's getting a little bit better every single year. Jeff is one of those guys that you can't sleep on. He's deadly. And then like this year too, because Brian tied Tom for the total points, but when they did the count back for the stones, Tom beat Brian in the stones. And then I wanted to look just a couple years back. Let me see this one. So this is before Brian had that injury, but he was still doing all the other stuff. He's still a great. Yeah, he still podiumed. And then the year before that, he still podiumed. And then I think the 2 years before that, he won. Yeah, so 2016, 2015, he won. And then you had Zadrunas in there. And Zadrunas, that was one of the greatest. I think that was one of the greatest duels of strongman history is really Big Z and Brian going back and forth.
Because Eddie and Thor didn't last long enough.
No. Well, they took theirs to the boxing ring, so they they had other stuff to do. Right?
Yeah.
But so I kind of want to just look back at some of those a little bit, and it's interesting because when you're looking back through these events, if you just go off of this, I'd say there's not really a way Brian's going to win. But then if you look at his prep and how he's performed so far already, honestly, I'd say Brian probably has it in the bag. If anyone, he would be the one that I would bet on winning this year. But again, that's my opinion. So take it or leave it.
It's a legitimate opinion for sure. I think the odds are high. I would say the odds are high.
Yeah, but I think you're very right though, where it's going to be a duel between Tom and Brian.
I got to be right sometime. I was totally wrong at the very beginning where I didn't have either one of them going through. Brian, if you're watching this after seeing this performance, I promise you I will never, ever do that again. Never. I'll never say Tom too, but primarily Brian Shaw.
Yeah.
Never again say you're not going through the finals.
Yeah. Tom is still new enough where there's still a lot of unknowns with him, but he's over the last couple of years, he's slowly demonstrating that he is a well-rounded athlete. He is, he's not the best at everything, but he's really darn good at everything. So,
yeah.
But
cool. Yeah.
Well, so we can go ahead and wrap it up there. We'll keep watching over the next 2 days. So they start tomorrow morning, and we'll see how the events start going with that. And maybe we'll do some more live streams with that. I know, John, you were saying that you're going to do a nightly live stream recap.
I've been doing them nightly. Yeah, they've been pretty well attended, so I'm going to keep trying to do those. I'll do one tomorrow night. I do them when I can. Kids are to bed, whatever. I can't guarantee the time, or I can't guarantee the time they're going to finish competing either. So do them when I can in the evenings. And then Sunday's Father's Day, so I might not get to it Sunday night. That one might have to wait till Monday, but we'll see.
About that. Yeah. I got to see what my wife is doing for me on Sunday. So.
Yes, happy Father's Day to you while I'm here.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to you as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there and call it a night. And, thanks for joining me to help me do this.